Commissioners meeting, Town Board of Battle Mountain and Austin, Board of County Highway Commissioners, March 14, 2019. Calling that to order. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. And Kathy, if you would be so kind to lead us in that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, if you all would join us in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Lander County Commissioners may break for lunch from 12 o'clock to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. We'll start with our Commissioners' report, and Commissioner Art, if you would help us on that with starting.
Sure, I'd like that. I went to the legislature on Monday because I had two things that I was interested in. One was the computer systems that the public safety uses. And the reason I was concerned is because my son told me about 10 years ago that there were going to be a lot of problems. And what happened was public safety received $9 million to try to fix a computer system, and it didn't work. So the legislators were pretty hard on the people that wanted now $52 million to correct the system, because you can't go in and just replace one part of a system anymore, because by the time you get that up and running, the rest of it's going to be antiquated. So now they're facing a $52 million bill to bring public safety computers up. The second thing I went for was the rural fire, and I wanted to hear for myself what the fire marshal had to say. Fire marshal is wanting more people for fire safety, number one, because of marijuana and spending time in dispensaries, grows, and now hemp manufacturing buildings. In White Pine County, there's going to be a 250,000 square foot hemp processing facility. The problem is the hemp oil is combustible, and they use ethanol in the process. So fire marshal needs more people to survey this and to review it. Is Titus a senator or an assemblyman? Assemblywoman?
I'm sorry, who?
Titus?
Dina Titus is, no, she's Congress.
Robin.
Congress, congressional.
Yeah. Okay, well, she mentioned, she asked if State Fire has any jurisdiction over grows, dispensaries, or anything else on colony property, and they were told no. And this is something that we've discussed here quite a few times. That's all I have right now, but I lost my phone and I have to find it because it controls my hearing aids, so I'll be back, okay?
Okay, thank you. You have to go in and call? You have to go back and call it?
No, I just have to find my phone.
No, go back to your office and dial the number, dial your number.
Yeah. But it won't ring because it's attached to my...
Brian?
Nothing to report, Casey.
Kathy?
Went to the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority Board, and there was a lot covered. I'll try to be brief. It spoke about the implementation of the authority for FY 2019 groundwater monitoring, excuse me, and the fluctuation of the water levels for Railroad Valley, Clayton Valley, Spring Valley, Jakes Valley, and we're talking about this static water. Being new to the board, wasn't quite sure what static water meant, and found out that it's when the levels don't come back up to its original, I guess, level, and the dropping, measuring there. And they also, one of the big things was the 3M plans for the concept of mitigation management and monitoring of the water through the State Water Board. So there was lots of discussion about the BDRs that are gonna come through that are going to be affecting that. So, and then went to the hospital board meeting last night, and they had some good things happening. April 1st, and they promised it wasn't gonna be an April Fool's joke, that the construction of phase 2 of the chapel and the respiratory should be completed, which is very, very nice. And then the board approved the new waiting room area and the new doors, the handicap doors, so hoping to get that started after this phase is finished after April 1st, so that's what I have.
Thank you. Judy?
So, I also attended the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority Board with Kathy, and we did meet the new interim state engineer, and I don't have my notes, so I'm gonna guess it's Tim Wilson, but don't hold, oh, thanks, Bevan. Anyway, seemed a pretty decent guy, you know, he's kinda learning and trying to be cooperative with the different agencies. He had one of his assistants, as Kathy was talking, the 3M plans, the monitoring, mitigation, and what I forget, management. It's a very controversial plan, basically, and one of the issues talked about was, you know, the Humboldt Basin and the lawsuit with Pershing County and whatnot. There was quite a bit of discussion about that, is the state engineers wanting to put in, you know, a mitigation plan to the people upriver of the Humboldt Basin. And Pershing County really doesn't want the money, they want the water, but you can't give them the water. It's without taking everybody else's water away. And that was one of the questions I asked the state engineer was, you guys created this problem. You over allocated this basin. Where's the mitigation on the state engineer's office? And he says, well, unfortunately, we can't do anything about it, which I don't think was a very reasonable answer, because, you know, they're putting the burden on everyone else. So it was an interesting meeting, and we still have some more of the bill drafts or bills before the legislature, and hopefully we are protesting some of them through the Central Nevada and also Humboldt River Basin Water Authority. Both boards are protesting, and we're going to kind of remain a little neutral on a couple others to see how they play out. But there are definitely bills that will affect the rurals, and it's kind of a scary thing. And yes, I did attend NACO in Washington, D.C. with Patsy. I think I was a little bit over my head there. Not really up on a lot of the issues, which I felt didn't necessarily apply as much to Lander County. A lot of the symposiums, to me, I felt dealt more with a larger community, and like I said, not so much the issues that affect Lander County. That's just my opinion, Patsy. I did have a meet and greet with Congresswoman Jackie Rosen and Catherine Cortez Masto. Very nice ladies, actually. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but it was interesting. I talked to their staff, so we've got some good feedback from them, and that was encouraging. I think they're really willing to help anyone in the state of Nevada. That if we have issues from a county standpoint, if there's anything they can do, is give them a call, and they were really open to that, so I guess in that respect, that was a really good meeting. And I'm gonna let Patsy deal the rest of the NACO in DC.
Thank you. I'll cut it short, of course, because we can't begin to take all that time to tell you everything you need to know. But it is on the NACO website, and all the other speakers that we had are on video. And so you can access any of those. But first of all, on February 28th, we did have an RTC meeting, and Judy and I, of course, attended. She's our chair.
I forgot about that.
So
It's too
we're
long
looking
ago.
at some grants, and we'll be bringing that before the board before too long. From the 2nd of March to the 7th of March was our NACO Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. Yes. Actually, I thought it was excellent. Judy is right that a lot of it pertains to the bigger counties, but there's a lot that we need to be there for. And the biggest thing is to actually meet with our legislative groups that are there. And we had appointments with every single one of them. We didn't get to see all of them, but we had appointments, so that was the first start. The first one we saw was the Deputy Secretary of the Navy at the Pentagon. And of course, that one is regarding the Fallon Navy withdrawal and the modernization of the airspace and such. We were very concerned that the DEIS that came out did not have mitigation and the things that NACO and all the counties have been asking for, and he assured us with his full staff that it didn't need to be in that document, but it would be, that they were listening, and if there was anything we found that was not as we go down the road, because it's going to take a couple years yet, that we should bring it to their attention and they would be on top of it. It's always nice to at least hear them say it. Now we'll see what else happens. But today, right now going on, is a meeting in Fallon, and some of those people in charge of real estate and such are going to be at that meeting. One of our concerns is making the ranchers whole. If they take a ranch and it includes their AUMs, that when they take away the AUMs, the value of the ranch is down. So they assured us, the real estate gentleman assured us that they would take that in consideration when they actually did the whole appraisal and try and make our ranchers whole on the different places that pertain to it. As far as a couple of our speakers, we had several. We had the Assistant to the President, Kellyanne Conway, and she assured us that the White House outreach to the counties has been very successful. Over the last 2 years, they have hosted over 1,700 county officials just on policy briefings. And he has been a little bit more county concerned, I think, and that's a good sign. Ben Carson spoke generally about affordable housing, which is a big crisis all over the country, so that shortage was a real concern. And as I said, you can access the videos on it. There were several others, of course, that we have, but I won't go into all of them. We did have appointments with Senator Jackie Rosen and Senator Cortez Masto, and then they did host a breakfast later that Judy attended that we didn't get a chance to. We had other meetings. But meeting with them and their staff is always excellent, and of course, Senator Cortez Masto has been here many, many times. She really is familiar with the rural areas and comes out personally on her tours. That's not so with Jackie Rosen, and it seems like we're always educating her because she sees all the things that Clark County has the impression of course, and not the rest. So that's an excellent one. Of course, we met with the congressional staff, Mark Amodei, and his staff. He always makes time for us. And he has a letter out with his opinion too regarding the Fallon modernization plan. The others, actually, Congresswoman Dina Titus, we had an appointment with, but she couldn't get out of a meeting, and so we just met with her staff. And the other one, Susie Lee, ended up in a hearing, but we did go over they hosted us over to the hearing door, and her legislative staff person came out to speak with us personally, even though she couldn't. So that was kind of a contact. Horsford we never did get to see. So most of them, as far as Nevada delegation, was excellent, and we're really happy about that part. On March 11th, we have an NNRDA meeting, We have an approval actually of the countrywide comprehensive economic development strategy. It's proposed by the University of Nevada, the Reno Business College, and we needed to approve that for the different counties that belong to the NNRDA, Northern Nevada Regional Development Authority. So that had to be passed. We're real concerned about the government office, the Governor's Office on Economic Development, the GOED, because Paul Anderson just stepped down, and how the governor's going to replace that, we're not sure. We're hearing some rumors, perhaps it might go over to the Commission on Tourism, Travel, and that area. That's very possible. There also was an Elko Mine Expo this week, which was excellent. On 3/11, we also had an Austin Airport board meeting. Now that Frank Whitman has resigned and he's leaving, he's resigning from the airport board too, of course. All this is effective in July, but that means we're going to be looking for another member, and still we're looking for an alternate. So that's a real concern for us, whether we'll be able to make that board happen again. It's been very, very difficult. One of our concerns at the airport is the electronic fuel system under the credit cards, because Fallon Navy wants to fly in, and they use government credit cards for fuel. Well, our credit cards automatically add all the taxes, and they don't pay taxes. So when we checked into this is true all over the whole state. But yet they're really concerned about flying in using our fuel, and they're very insistent upon doing that. We'd love to have them do it, so we wonder if there's another way that we can actually bill separately, perhaps instead of automatically or something, and take those taxes off. There's got to be another way to do this.
So the fuel is owned by the FBO. So Walt owns he's the fuel. So if there was another way to bill, it would have to go through him.
Okay, perhaps we can talk to him about that and see if there's anything at all possible. While we're at that, do they have any, does the FBO have any instructors out here for flight lessons or anything in Battle Mountain?
Walt's a flight instructor, but that's the only one that I know of,
Okay.
the FBO.
Whether we can ask him whether he might think about doing any instructions in Battle Mountain and Austin?
Who's it, Walt?
Yes.
Oh, he will, yeah. That's come up in discussion several
Okay,
times.
if you can give us any particulars on that.
Okay.
One of our concerns is 2 exits at the airport. We only have one right now, and the FAA is saying we need an emergency exit. I'm not sure how we do that, because right now we have the gate that has all the key in and everything. So if we have an emergency exit, we'll probably have to have the same thing. So that's another added expense somewhere, because you just can't have an exit that doesn't have that security. So another expense that we're looking at on that. Thank you. And that concludes my meetings and staff reports. Keith?
Okay, so I did meet with the FAA last week, and we discussed a lot of happenings within our airports. One of the things that we did talk about was the taxiway design in Austin. So that's been put on hold. There was some issues with the environmental study that was done by the FAA. We think we might have it straightened out. So this year it's going to be a design-only project, and then it'll be a build next year. It looks like it'll go through once we make some changes to accommodate the environmental study. There was some issues with the road from the airport boundary out to Highway 722. Kyla did a lot of work on that with JUB and BLM. We got that straightened out, so now that will be included in pavement from all the way out to 722, which is a good thing. We're still having a lot of issues with the runway 1230, the crosswind runway at the Battle Mountain Airport. FAA wants to close that runway down. There's no data there to support a crosswind runway. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a wind machine out there. They're gonna give us another year to try to justify that runway. And it has to do with wind and how much wind and how hard it blows at certain times of the day. So we're gonna put a wind machine out there and see if we can get that data. based on discussions with, some local pilots and so forth, that wind is a problem with the air tanker pilots in the summer and so forth. So that's on the FAA. Let me see. We did join in on the Walker River lawsuit. I did talk with Jeff Fontaine, and we are gonna be part of the Walker River lawsuit. Our city-county tax, Cindy attended that, and our waiver was denied. So I looked into how we could appeal that, and actually before I even really got anywhere with it, the Department of Taxation is gonna appeal it for us. Kelly Langley, had a discussion with Cindy, and they're gonna go and look at how they can appeal that for us, so we can maintain our tax waiver here in the county.
Keith, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's the first time we've ever been denied?
Yeah, and once we lose it, we can never get it back. So it's really important that we really push to get that waiver put in place.
And is there any reason they gave why they denied it? Because we have too much money?
Exactly. That was actually, that was brought up by one of the board members, is why does Lander County need a tax waiver when they have so much money? That's kind of bit us on a few different, on some grants and so forth as well. But, in discussion, with Cindy and Kelly, that shouldn't have made a difference. So that's why the Department of Taxation is actually going to go in, present some additional facts and try to get that overturned. We're gonna be doing some, next month, through Pool Pack, we're gonna be, evaluating our internet security here in the courthouse through a company with Pool Pack. Laura's on board with it, and we're gonna see if we can, make sure our internet security is up to date and in good working order. I am gonna ask that, after the meeting, we have a litigation discussion. We've been doing a lot of work on our levy related to that $1 million plus bill from the Army Corps of Engineers. So I'd like to update the commissioners, in a litigation hearing on where we're at with that right now. So, and I think that's it.
Thank you. We'll be moving on to public comment, and first of all, may I welcome everyone for here, and thank you for coming. And please mute your cell phones. We still have all our minutes that are recorded by our paralegal, and I have cell phone ringing all the way through it. So we'd appreciate it if you put it on vibrate or turn it off, whatever's convenient for you. Our public comment is for non-agendized items only. Persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend and make comments on any non-agenda item of the board meeting, if any, and discussion of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we move to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine, may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action without extensive discussion. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed and acted upon separately during the meeting. Consent agenda materials are available at the Lander County Clerk's Office for viewing, and copies are available for a non-nominal charge. Number 1, approval of agenda notice March 14, 2019. Number 2, approval of January 24, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 3, approval of February 14, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 4, approval of February 28, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 5, approval of the payment of bills. Number 6, approval of payroll change requests. I do know that we've received the minutes for number 2 and number 3, but not number 4. So we're going to pull number 4, and we're going to pull number 5 under the payment of bills, and I think we have some personal
Yeah, I need
checks, do we,
I need
Brian?
to pull out check 202274, and I need to abstain from that check, because it's payment to my employer.
202274
Yeah, 202274.
for your employer, okay. Any others that?
I
you'd like?
have, check number 209827, payable to myself for travel expense. I will be, abstaining from that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, could we have a motion on the rest of them then, besides the two that we pulled out?
I do have a question on one check I'd like clarification
No,
on.
we're doing the consent agenda first.
Okay, so not paying the
The
bills.
approval, yeah, you wanna
Okay.
make a motion on the balance?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Sec-
second.
Thank you. So moved and seconded that we approve all of the agenda items except 4 and 5. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Yes, you wanna talk about one of the bills?
Well, I just wanted a clarification. It's on check number 202218 is for environmental health computer programs quarterly software. What's that for? Anybody tell me?
Cindy,
Maybe give me a second, I'll go pull the check.
cannot hear you.
What
So
was
sorry.
that check number again?
202218.
Cindy Benson for the record. If you'll give me just a second, I'll go pull the check and bring it in. I forgot to bring them today.
Yeah, it says here it's quarterly software, so it's something that we must be paying every quarter. And environmental health is for almost $9,000, so I was just curious what it's for.
I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll let you go pull that. We'll just hold up on that for a bit.
Okay.
Okay, then, we need a motion that, I think we don't wanna do the whole motion on all of the checks, cause we're looking at this one. So, we need a motion to approve the check that Brian is abstaining from, 202274.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Moved by Judy, seconded by Kathy. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, that's the one you don't wanna
Yeah,
vote on.
abstain from,
Yeah, okay. Once again, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and Brian is abstaining. Thank you, that
And it's
passes.
a correction to your Patsy, I said it was 202218 is 202217. This new-
202217.
Yeah, so it's just, I read this report wrong, this report's a little difficult to follow, but it looks like it's,
The number's
so,
over here.
yeah, this is the check number here, right? Yeah, this is the check number, this is the amount, it was for 11,000. So
Okay.
basically, this one, this environmental health, that was below, that's a state pass-through.
Okay,
If I'm reading it right, and the other one is just for computer programs quarterly software, am I looking at that right?
this is the check number.
Yeah, so you did the same thing, but I think it's this one.
Okay, and the one you're withholding from is,
Well, I'm not withholding from anything, I was just questioning the amount, but I think I may have read it incorrectly. You see what I'm saying? Art, right here. Is it this one that goes for computer programs?
You know, I don't know, I get confused by this format too, the other format was much easier, it was
Okay, no,
180 degrees.
I
What
think
page
this
is it,
check
Brian?
number, but
It's
we'll know when
that's-
we come back. Okay,
that
so
would
your
be
check
it
number
right
was
there.
okay though?
Page 3.
Okay, the one we just passed was
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. All right, then with that, we need to have approval for Judy's check, number 209827.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Kathy, seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Judy, you're recusing yourself?
Oh, habit, sorry. I take
Thank
that
you.
back.
For the record, Judy is recusing herself from that check. I don't mean to make this so complicated, I'm sorry. Okay,
just need to
so
pay
now we have
attention.
all the rest of them, and we'll wait to see what Cindy has to say before we do the action on that one.
You see what I'm looking at, Keith?
Yeah.
I think I just read the report wrong.
Okay, it's, that check is related.
It's a pass-through through the state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I looked at this check, which was for just,
Oh, I got
you see what I'm saying? I thought it was for environmental health. That was my question, but I just cleared it up for myself.
Okay, so we're good then?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, need a motion for the balance of the payment of bills?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, made by Judy, seconded by Kathy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Art has stepped out, but that passes, thank you. Okay, we'll start with our agenda now. Number one, I think we probably would go ahead and get Yesco on the line.
I'm actually present.
Oh, you are, we don't need to get you on the line. Oh, great, please step forward. Discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove a proposal from Yesco for grant of easement on each of their 6 billboards located in the Lander County right-of-way at the Battle Mountain Airport, and to pay Lander County $20,000 for each easement and other matters properly related thereto. Good morning.
Morning, thanks for having me. My name is Braden Saunders. I am in the real estate department for Yesco. I'm the fella who came up with the offer for you guys. So,
Thank you, Braden.
yeah,
No, I didn't realize you were here this morning, so we're ready to.
I snuck
hire
in
you.
right
That's
before it
great.
started,
Okay.
so.
I think we understand that. Can you tell me offhand, how long the lease that we currently have runs?
I believe it runs for another 2 to 4 years. Forgive me for my memory, I've been looking through
Not sure,
all
okay.
of them.
2020, I believe, 2020.
So till next year,
2027?
No, 2020.
2020?
And then we have an additional one at 2025.
Well, they
There is-
automatically, unless we give them notice, they automatically go for another period of time.
Yes, I understand that. That's why we didn't catch it on the lease last
Right.
time, and that's why you got by paying so less than what we feel you should be paying for a billboard.
Oh.
How about that?
Awesome,
Okay,
I think.
I understand why you would want to buy each right away for $20,000. So I guess, because of what the cost of billboards are now for advertising. And I'm wondering, since we are the leaseholder, do we have the right to ask them for a report of how much they make on every billboard?
Well, you can certainly do that in negotiation to a contract. In this situation, they want to permanently buy the easement, which means
I
that.
know that, but I would like to know how much they make on every billboard before I even think about selling it.
it would- You know, it's gonna be really hard for them to come out with an amount, I've gotta be honest with you.
And per our lease agreement, that's not a requirement. However, I can tell you our annual amounts that we make, if you give me a second. The annual potential on each site is about 15,000. We don't make that much. But assuming we ask full price, which we don't, that's how much we could make.
Because billboards do go anywhere from 400, 600, 1,500, 2,000 a billboard.
It just
right.
depends on each contract that we
Okay.
work out, and there's a few different factors that go into it.
I guess that's one of my main concerns is why we would, I don't understand why you wanna buy it, but I don't know why we would wanna
Sure.
sell it, because that's quite a
So-
minimum.
If I may, I can kind of give you an idea of how I come up with the numbers for the easements.
Please.
So we do use a formula. It is based off of our annual potential revenue. We multiply that by a multiplier to get to the number we get to. And 20,000 was that magic number this time around.
Does the board have any questions for Braden?
I really just don't,
I'm sorry.
I just don't feel that the county should be selling property like that, for the easements or our interests.
I do think since we are getting a very lower price then I think we probably could be entitled to it. I guess my question is, Braden, I imagine that you lease a lot of billboards. I mean, Yesco's one of the biggest ones in the country. Don't in some of your leases actually you pay back a percentage to the leaseholder instead of just so much a month?
As far as like what we make off of it,
Right.
so like a revenue share.
Like
Right.
a profit share, yeah.
Yeah. In some of our bigger markets, like in Salt Lake, that's typical. Out in the rural areas, I'm not aware of a lease that we have that has that. So, Short answer, yeah, we do that, but it's typically reserved for,
Well, since we're not renegotiating the lease, it was just a question
sure,
wondering what was
sure.
gonna be
I'm
coming.
happy to answer
But
any
yeah,
questions.
because I know I'm not in favor of selling the property, we're in favor of working with you again when the lease comes due.
Sure. Is there, may I ask, is the reason because you feel our offer is too low? Is it because?
I think Commissioner Allen had it. I don't think we really should just be selling the property. I think there's a future income we can continue to get instead of just taking the money right now.
Sure.
It's like retirement.
Yeah, no, I understand
I mean, you
that.
give it to us, we'll spend it. But if it keeps coming in, then that's good for our future,
Right.
so.
And I would just like to point out that based off of the current lease amount, that's 20 years in the future. So, and, I mean, even if it was double, it's still 10 years out. It's kind of hard to,
I understand,
yeah.
I do, and I understand why you asked for it, and I think that's very good business sense. So is anybody ready for a motion?
I'll make
I
a
have
motion.
one question.
Sure.
If the county chose to sell this property where these signs are, could the new owner say, I don't want Yesco's sign there on my property?
Well, absolutely, we can say that too. Matter of fact, with the end coming up of some of these contracts, we would have to give them notice that we're not going to engage in an automatic renewal. That's, and I hope you guys discuss that, whether you want to do that or not, because we have to do that at the appropriate time.
So, just a little bit of clarification on that, Ted. So if we were to sell to Yesco, we gave them that land, the easements, could they not then turn around and sell it to somebody else if they wanted to?
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
They could, and they could prevent us from doing anything on those pieces of those
Right.
6 pieces of property.
That's where I was headed,
Yeah,
Brian.
exactly.
So, let me speak to that real quick, because the area that we're asking for is basically the area that's the sign, right? It's, in my letter, I specified 100 by 100 areas, typically what we go after. It can be adjusted as needed, but the easement itself is, and as well as the lease, is binding upon anybody who purchases the property. Let's say we had another company come in, they wanted to buy it. Whatever agreement we have in place with you guys is binding on any successors. In addition to that, we only care about the billboard and securing that property for a long term or indefinitely, whichever we can do. You are still able to use that property however you want. We don't own it, we just have an easement on it. So if you were to sell it to somebody, they would very much be capable of building a business on it and doing whatever they'd like to.
But you would control the easement.
We have the easement, yeah.
So-
Similar to like a utility easement.
To bring up another point, so we are looking at an industrial park.
Right.
There's a lot of things that we might not see today that could arise, you know,
And we
that
gotta take-
where we sold those easements, that we caused ourselves a problem.
We gotta take pipelines out there, we gotta take all
Yeah,
kinds.
exactly, so.
Right.
So I guess one of the other things that hasn't been mentioned, can the county just decide today, I wanna sell this land to Biden? Or, isn't there a process? I mean, we can't just decide, yeah, we're gonna sell it to you. You know, we have to offer it to somebody else or highest bidder or,
It's an easement, so it's a little different from selling the land, just like it was pointed out.
true,
So-
but it's
So
still.
we don't have to go through a bidding process for an easement, but
But I think in all fairness, that should be considered.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm just telling you technically,
Right.
it's an easement and it's a reach around. You know, when you buy an easement, you're reaching around, you still control that property. And prevent the county in this instance from doing anything associated with that easement, with that particular piece of land. So I guess it's a policy matter for the 5 commissioners to decide if they even wanna sell easements in that area if we're going to expand it. That's the question, I think.
You ready for a motion?
You good?
I'd make a motion, we disapprove the proposal from Yesco for the grant of easement on each of their 6 billboards located in Lander County right of way at the Battle Mountain Airport.
I'll second.
Okay, Brian made the motion, it's seconded by Art, and thirded by Kathy, but okay. Any other discussion? Any other public comment?
I just have a question. So who would I then, do we, at the time of the renewal, do we negotiate with you guys? Is that?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We don't want to interfere with your business at all, but we just are protecting our property.
Sure, I understand
Thank
that,
you.
and happy to work with you, in a year on 4 of them.
I would say that to answer your question, Keith and or me, or both of us, any contact, and then we would get a hold of
Sure,
the commission
Okay.
And as Commissioner Sparks mentioned, we're building an industrial park out there,
That
so
was-
you will have business on your signs.
yeah, that was pointed out to me as well when I initially, jumped into it, so appreciate your time.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Drayden.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming before us. We're gonna take one out of order. We're gonna scoot to number 5. Under planning. Discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove a zone change application from Iturriaga. Jennifer, I'm so sorry, Ventures, Carolyn Mistretti, Joseph Philip Ramos, Joseph Ramos Jr., Alan Brewer, and Joseph Malene, Joe, and Paige Ramos, changing 001-248-05, 001-248-03, 001-248-04, 001-247-04, and 098-100-34 from Austin Historical Residential, AHR, to manufactured housing / residential / commercial / MRC, all located in Austin, and all other matters properly related thereto. Hi. Hi again.
Kyla Bright, Planning Coordinator.
Kyla, could you explain something to me, just, so manufactured housing, residential, commercial,
This is Austin here. We can barely hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna reposition the phone, tell me if this helps.
Okay, but it was Judy they couldn't hear, so you need to speak up just a little for us, Judy.
so when you mentioned the commercial, is that
Is it better?
across the board commercial? I mean, you could open up a retail store there, or is this, commercial in the respect of housing, RV park,
Yes, it'd be like tourist commercial. So you can have storage sheds, anything that you're storing within the buildings, nothing can be outside. Or RV parks, mobile home parks, it's the tourist commercial type. So
Okay.
it's not a storefront, come to my home, or come to my, no.
right, okay.
It's-
No industry, no, you can't have a
A welding shop.
welding shop, okay, that was just what I needed, thank you.
I'm just gonna kind of explain the difference between what you saw last time and this time. So Ms. Maestretti has been removed, as well as, Robert
Austin
Hughes,
Resources.
Austin Resources. So that, let's say this is north, so it'd be this strip here, and one parcel here, and this corner here. I left these two in because they are touching on one side to the, what would be MRC in the middle, which also would match the MRC that's existing down at the bottom. I also added into your packets proof of the letter that was sent out, who it was sent to, and what addresses were listed when this notice was sent out. Also in there, I have the purpose for Austin Historical Residential that I'd like to read out to you, if that's okay. This district accommodates the special needs of property owners in the older portions of the disincorporated town of Austin, where land has been divided into parcels which do not readily conform to the residential building lot minimums of R1. The AHR district is intended to accommodate a manufactured housing overlay, recognizing that much of the existing residential housing in the district consists of manufactured housing and or older units known as mobile homes. So I put that in there to explain that it's not, the word historical is not the main word in the purpose for Austin Historical Residential. They put it there so that they would not be putting anybody existing out of compliance, which we are working on with our Austin realignment project. It's bringing the lots back into compliance, back into the sizes, and along with that, I think that moving from AHR into MRC, which has existing down below it to the south, as you can see on the map, kind of transitions into this newer, more productive Austin that could exist.
So of the 26 letters that you sent out, you didn't get any response from any of those people?
Not until we sat in here on the last commission meeting and we had the response on the phone. There was nothing mailed in, nothing phoned in, and nobody went to the Austin site to be on the planning commission to speak with us there.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment from Austin?
Yes, can we go ahead and speak now?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Ray Williams, Austin resident, and I voiced my opinion last time. I just feel that it's, if Turkeyanga Enterprises wanted to zone their lot, I think that's one issue. But there's only one application, and that's for her lot, and then it takes up a whole big section of Upper Town, which I feel if they want to have some kind of commercial operation, they should have it downtown anyway. But the public notice on this thing, by your own ordinance, it says that, just a second here, I've got to get my notes. That spot zoning is presumed to be illegal. That's under your own zoning ordinance, but
What
you
did
go
Ray
back
say?
to the NRS 276, 260, and it says that the public notice is supposed to notify or identify the area of the master plan. They're supposed to have a statement which indicates whether the proposed zoning designation of the property in question complies with the requirements of the master plan for the city or the county in which the property is located. I don't know that was done. I know there is in this latest packet that you have, it does show that there's a one-page copy of the master plan. I just brought this up to Chamber of Commerce, and they had no knowledge. The chamber itself had no knowledge of what was going on with it, and Mr. Vaughn, who's the pastor of the Baptist church there,
question.
Ray, what did you say about the spot zoning?
Your spot zoning, that's in your own zoning ordinance under Article 1, General Division 2, spot zoning is presumed to be illegal.
So I have two questions. Mr. Wynn stated that we're spot zoning and that we're not following our Lander County or master plan. I'd like a response to those.
Absolutely. So, spot zoning, if you look at your map, if Jennifer was just to do this parcel right here, this is Jen's parcel, okay, up here. All of the surrounding parcels would be AHR, surrounding her completely. So Jennifer contacted all of these parcel owners, and they agreed that they also wanted to change to MRC. And that would in turn put this whole block that he is speaking of into MRC, bringing it out of the spot zoning, because there's MRC down below it as well.
And that follows our
And that follows,
Our
yes.
master plan.
Otherwise, I would have told her absolutely no, if it was just hers, and it would not be in front of you guys.
We're not gonna build an industrial park there.
What about the two that we had to pull out because of our legal reasons?
Right, so I explained that at the beginning. So if we're looking, again, the dark blue at the top is hers. This one we left on, and this one we left on. This we took off, and this over here we took off. Leaving these two, you still have that transition across here, and on the bottom of MRC.
So even though we pulled those out, it's still not spot zoning?
It's still not spot.
Right,
Now,
Okay.
if we were to take it and this was the only one up here and none of this, that would be spot zoning because it's up by itself away from all the other zonings with a Mod Podge of zonings around it.
Okay,
You
thank
need
you.
that transition.
And Ray had a question on the master plan.
So I also put that in your packet, sorry, my papers are all now. Let me get to that page if you'll give me just a moment. That was a question that came up on the last one. So again, I'm gonna read from the Austin Master Plan on residential. The residential land use designation is for residential uses including mobile home parks in both the development community and surrounding lands in the Reese River Valley identified for community expansion. The intent of the residential land use designation is to allow the property owner flexibility in developing their property and maintaining existing uses on site. Uses may include a broad range of non-residential business-oriented uses that are complementary to the character of Austin. The residential area west of town and north of US 50 may develop sooner than south of US 50 due to planning infrastructure in that area. It is recognized that some areas may benefit from the allowance of recreational vehicle parks on a lot as the primary use. That's Austin's master plan. Historical commercial, which is what was getting confused in the last meeting, the words historical and the words commercial, specific uses in the downtown historic core to protect the historical character of downtown. Okay, this is Austin's master plan.
Okay, just a qualification
Just
on
throw
that.
that out there.
It says in the master plan, it's recognized that some areas may benefit from the allowance of recreational vehicles parked on a lot as the primary use, but our ordinance still restricts that.
This is correct.
So, as long as, okay.
So that's,
Austin, did you have any more comments?
Go ahead, Frank. Frank Whitman was here, he was reviewing it, but he didn't have anything. I just feel that it's kind of unfair to the community to proceed and make this whole big block commercial. I still feel if she wanted to have her particular property made commercial, that's spot zoning, but maybe she could do something with it. Just my own opinion. And I think it's a general opinion of what we had with the Chamber of Commerce. We spent almost 2 years doing that master plan for
first off, just clarification, it's not just zone commercial, it's MRC, which is
Well,
multiple uses.
I understand that, but C is commercial, is that not correct?
It is, but we do have designations that is strictly to commercial. I just wanted to point that out, that it is multiple use, manufactured housing, residential and commercial.
Yeah.
And if you looked at it with such a fine tooth comb, why didn't the Gridley store get zoned as Austin Historical? And then I'm just right up from there, and I have nothing on my property that has anything to do with historical.
No, I think we clarified that, it wasn't a historical district per se. But on the legality of it, Ray, unfortunately, it did go, properly before the planning commission and to the residents that needed to be notified. There isn't anything legally that we say that a hearing has to be held. I understand your point, and I understand Austin's concern if the commissioners want to take that into consideration, but legally, everything appears to be done properly. So we also need to take that into consideration. Okay. So what are the board's feelings today?
And why are there no other complaints besides, I mean, nobody called in or sent in anything, or nobody showed up to the meeting? And if you guys trust your planning committee and this, I don't know what the problem is. What your problem is, Bubby, I don't guess.
Well, I will go ahead and put it on the record. When the planning committee, when the agenda came out for the planning committee, I think it really was a little ambiguous. It did not basically say the information that it could have said, so that Austin would have picked up on it. But the people were notified properly with the right information. So, if you want to hold your hand on that and say, okay, let's send it back to the planning commission, that's another option.
If all of these people were sent letters and you had no complaints, and it was, the planning board was.
Well, those people they sent letters are around. Those are all the ones that they have to legally send because they're on that end of town. Other people on the other end of town are the ones that are saying, like the chamber, the people that weren't notified personally, that weren't aware of what was happening, and that's what Ray is speaking to. The town didn't know that. Well, it's a small town, so they should have known it and didn't, and now they're concerned. Is it after the fact? Is it too late? That's up to you folks.
Well, I don't see a reason why we can't approve it. I think it's all within order.
I can't.
I say I don't see why there's a reason why we can't approve it, just because everything seems to be in order.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the zone change for the applicants listed on item number 5.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Art that we approve this and seconded by Brian. Any other discussion? Any other public comment?
For the record, just to ease everybody's mind, there will not be any operations of marijuana or anything going on anywhere around there. That is not the hidden agenda, and you guys can write it in your diaries, take it home, because none of that's ever gonna happen up there.
It's not zoned correctly.
Yes.
You'd have to come before us again anyway.
I just wanted that to be clear.
You're not gonna build an industrial park down there, are you?
No.
That would be spot zoning.
It's not zoned correctly.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
None.
Okay, one so recorded and it passes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We go on to number 2. Discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove a letter of support to the Bureau of Land Management for desert land entry applications N 96929, N 96930, N 96931, N 96932, and N 96933, all in the name of 8 Mile Farms LLC, located in the Smith Creek Valley, and all other matters properly related thereto. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Bevan Lister.
I'm Alan Knight.
we're just here, we presume or hope that you got the information that we sent in, the maps and everything. In a nutshell, we're planning to develop 1,600 acres in the Smith Creek Valley. It's about 18 miles west of Austin, about 8 miles south of Highway 50. We're bordered on the south by an existing farm. I believe Gondolfo's own it. There's a power line right there and a county road right there, and we're gonna build a farm. So we do in Pioche, and we're excited for the opportunity to move up your way. So if you have any questions, just one clarification. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the desert land entry process. One of the few acts left on the books where BLM land can be disposed of and put into private ownership, it has to meet certain qualifications. Now, on your agenda it says all in the name of 8 Mile Farms. So the applications have to be in the name of an individual for a maximum of 320 acres. So my wife and I have applied, Alan's wife and he, and then his dad. But we've grouped them together and asked the BLM to act on them in one decision, because it will, that minimizes the cost for the environmental work and those kind of things. So with that being said, if you've got any questions for us, we'd love to field them.
I just have one, thank you. And yes, we have had some of our other ranchers go with the DLE in Lander County, and it's always exciting to get them back on the rolls, so to speak. We get more in taxes than we do in pills, so. But the water is always a question, Kevin.
So what research I've done, this is one of the few basins in the state that has available water, and there's not a whole bunch of people waiting in line for it.
It's still an open basin.
Yeah, it's still an open basin. There's approximately, at least to the records that I could find, about 7,500 acre feet available in the basin. We would be using about 5,000 of that 7,500 acre feet. The water table, the wells that are in production there now, look to be very good wells, and so I think the physical water, not only the water rights are accessible, but also the physical water is acceptable. It's tremendously advantageous to have the power line right there close by as well. So in one of my other hats that I wear, I'm a water well contractor, and so I have some experience in that field.
Any other questions?
From the time that you began until don't you have like like 4 years from the time that you began until you finished to have basically until you're growing hay? Is that correct?
So in the process, so we submitted the applications to the BLM last May, and it's still very new in the process. Once the BLM grants us permission to enter on, then we will have 4 years to prove up. And it actually kind of nice because it coincides with your 4 years to prove beneficial use on the water. So our development plan would be that we would develop, it would be the first 4 pivots. So 640 acres the first year, 640 acres the second year, and then the last 320 would be done the third year. So we've got a 3-year development plan to have it all in production. So with hope, the first year that they give us permission to enter on, we would have the first 4 pivots, the first 500 acres in production in that year.
And we would have some new families in Lander County.
Yep.
In southern Lander County.
We're looking at, there would be at least 2 families there full-time, possibly 3, and then summer help.
So, board, while you are considering this, they did go ahead and put a model letter in here for us. So if you're looking to approve this and support it, take a look at that letter and see if that's something we wanna just put in the way it is, or whether we'd like to add anything to it or amend it, and that can be part of your motion.
So Bevan, I have a question, and I know that area isn't, really scrutinized as far as water rights. You know, it's like you said, there's plenty of water and it's not a real big issue. How long does it generally take to get, I mean, if you apply for the irrigation rights, how long would it take to get those, do you know?
So the way the state engineer deals with water rights in relation to a desert land entry application, when you file the application for water, you note that it's for a desert land entry. The state engineer kind of holds that in queue, doesn't do anything with it until the permission to enter on is granted. And so once that permission to enter on is granted, then the state engineer, you just ask them and they'll activate the water
Okay.
rights.
With, like, you guys sit on the water boards?
Mhm.
I mean, are there any BDRs that are potentially coming forth that could affect the use of that water, that if they weren't to get it, that it would go elsewhere?
No.
No?
No, I mean, and that's one thing that, I don't believe the state engineer will approve inter-basin transfers.
No.
And, I mean, it's, especially now, and there is a BDR, or well, it's a bill, before the assembly on, basically speculation, water speculation. But, I don't know as though this area, that particular area would be part of, you know, would ever be used for speculation.
And I think it's such a hot topic, the water now, when they originally put in their application, instead of putting it on a queue, they would have just handed it right back to them, you
Right.
know, so.
And
Rick
we're
Whitman
not,
here, for the record, Chair of the Public Lands Board. The only BDR that might affect that is the proposed one to leave a 10% water reserve in any basin that has not been fully allocated. And he'll have his in, I'm sure, before that happens. I don't think he's going to bump into that upper number at all. And just to finish up, the Public Lands Board did review the water and the land, and we stand in favor of seeing these applications go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. Actually, that was a new one I forgot about. We just brought it to our attention Friday, so thank you for that.
Okay, ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve a letter of support to the BLM for desert land entry application N96929, N96930, N96931, N96932, and N96933, all in the name of 8 Mile Farms LLC.
I'll second.
And authorize.
And authorize the chair to sign.
Thank you. Is there any other comment, public comment? Okay, the motion's made by Judy, seconded by Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. May I also take the opportunity to introduce you to one of our fellow commissioners? Bevan Lister is from Lincoln County.
I was gonna say, Bevan, when you said you were gonna be here, I didn't realize it was gonna be this soon.
thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited about it too. And we're gonna take a quick 10-minute break. Austin? You want to move?
Austin?
Yeah,
We're here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We're going to call our meeting back to order, please. And we're still going to be out of sync a little bit. We're going to go directly to number 4. Discussion and possible action regarding Lander County's Community Health Nursing Program and whether to continue the program as a county-funded program or as a state-funded program, and all other matters properly related thereto.
So, our current community health nurse is leaving April 1st for a new position. One of my responsibilities is to look at costs associated with that, as well as what how to best serve the community. So I went back and I started reviewing a few things, and the costs here are substantial. Right now, with the county-funded community health nurse, the salary and benefit packages, right at $132,000. It's in your books. To go back with the state, which we had in the past, that's gonna run about $11,000 a year. So we've got quite a bit of difference there. I have invited the state, Tina Gerber-Wynn, to come and answer any questions that you might have, and Abby's here to answer any other questions you might have. You also have, I think, 4 letters of support for the community health nurse program, the county-funded community health nurse program. And so with that, I will answer questions or ask the two to come up and answer your questions.
So my question, so what'd you say if we went with the state, how much we would save?
With the state, so we have a contract with the state currently. And it was $41,000 a year, and that included the community health nurse. So it's been reduced this year, it's number 9, which we'll get to in a little bit. But it's down to about $30,000. So if we put the health nurse back under the state, it'll go up another $11,000 a year. Is that correct?
So it'd be 41,000?
Yes.
So, okay, so that's.
I've got a question. I thought the state didn't have money, and we had to pick up, that's what we were told.
I'll let Tina answer that.
Good morning.
Morning.
For the
Did I answer your question?
Well, yeah, that was one of the, actually, I'll just let her speak, she may answer some of the other questions I have, so.
For the record, my name's Tina Gerber-Wynn. I'm the agency manager for community health and mental health services through the state. So just to clarify for the assessment, our original assessment to Lander County in previous years was $40,000, roughly $41,000. Our current assessment to you is for $11,000, and that's basically for protective services, mandated services. So to clarify our budget, under the NRS, which was passed in 2011, the counties were responsible for conducting or paying for a portion of management of chronic contagious diseases in the county. So that portion that we do on behalf of your county is under the state health officer. So we're supposed to be looking for ways to test for sexually transmitted diseases and prevention or eradication of those issues that we find. HIV testing and counseling to protect the citizens from those disease spreads, and vaccination clinics for outbreaks, and then to participate in your local emergency preparedness board. So that portion of it, we have to bill you for, either the $11,000 to not have any other additional services in the county, or a nurse in the county itself, but we would provide those services if our state epidemiologist noted there was an outbreak of disease in Lander County. So that would be what we would pay for. We have finances for that. What it comes from is, some of it's from CDC for public health preparedness, general fund from the state, maternal and child health funds, funds from SAPTA, which is chronic, it's disease prevention for substance use, Title 10, which is family planning monies, and then Title 20, which is Social Security block grant money. So we have a mix of monies in our budget. I think what happened before was that we had extra optional money, which was for family planning, and we might have bought immunizations with that as well. So the problem is confusion about the scope of work. For a mandatory service, you pay $11,000, and we provide management for those outbreaks that might occur. It's a crapshoot. You might not have any outbreaks in your county, but we would be available to address them as they came up. The part where we kind of had a partnership before and the county gave us extra money was really to those voluntary or, not voluntary is not the right word, they're supplemental or additional services that the county could choose to have. I think you really wanted vaccinations for everyone. That could be something your Board of Health would state. Our budget supports vaccinations, but not for people who have health insurance. It's for people who are uninsured, underinsured, so meaning they might have insurance, but it doesn't cover certain things, or there's a limit on it, like our dental insurance. For example, it pays $1,500 a year. So if you need $3,000 worth of work, you have to pay $1,500 out of your pocket. So our budget considers people who are underinsured for some things, or the fixed dollar amount that your insurance would pay. So the county at times, I think, wanted people who had insurance to receive vaccinations, and we couldn't provide them because we didn't have private stock for their insurance company. A lot of information, I understand. So I think that's when the county paid money, put it in a special use fund, and we bought vaccinations for that, for anybody in the county, regardless of insurance, and we just gave them vaccinations. So what you're paying for in $11,000 is just the basic coverage of STD chronic disease. If you wanted anything else, such as a nurse on site, it would be the approximately $40,000 a year. The nurse would be available, would probably cover 1 day a week in Elko for public health preparedness, but would be here. Anything over and above that, and I think your county really has worked to provide some access to care for people who have insurance, but it's a transportation issue or an access issue to go somewhere else for vaccinations for people who have insurance, as well as family planning for people who have insurance. I don't know if you're billing out for those things, but those are things we could provide through the state, but the county would have to pay for some of the supplies.
And
So
you wouldn't bill?
we would bill for administration. So for example, you would supply the vaccinations, but we would bill insurance for administering the vaccinations if it existed for a person's.
Okay, so if we had, because we're used to having flu pods, where
Oh.
they just come through.
Right.
So, and I understand that if lots of people have insurance, that it pays for that. So
Right.
if they came in, could you handle the one with insurance and bill and the one that didn't have and give it free?
So a couple things in that.
Are you set up to do that?
Well, we don't have private stock for people who have insurance. So if the county paid for the medication as they had in the past, they gave a special use fund, and I think Jason Bleak did pay, he's here now, the hospital did help you pay for the medication. We would then administer the medication. And that we could do that for any specific Board of Health initiative, correct? If you wanted to do screenings for certain things or provide
No,
health care.
I understand. So if we have a group over here, we're gonna have 1,000 people that have immunizations and half of them have insurance, we pay for half of them, for those half of the vaccine?
Day to day in the clinic, no, that's not correct, I'm sorry. Day to day, if someone came in for help from the clinic, we would have to charge them depending on private stock use or whether they had insurance or not, we would look at that. What you're talking about as a point of distribution is a practice test for a disaster. In those instances, there's a special category of medication we have. I know it's complex, right? There's a special category of medication we get from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and they allow us to use medication for anybody in those exercises because you're practicing for a disaster.
I see. Okay, there's more to this story, I understand.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
pretty
I gotcha.
complex.
Well, that's interesting to know. But let's go back to, because our question was, the main reason that the board voted to go community nurse was we thought we didn't have any other choices. We were told that the state was no longer going to have that available for us. I think it was a very definitely a miscommunication. So that was the main reason that we went. And how long have we had our own community nurse?
Okay, can I answer that? And I believe what we're talking about is the Title X funding. And I think she can address the Title X
Okay.
funding. And it's been a year and a half.
So we've only had our own community nurse a year and a half. We've been doing the state before. And how many hours or how many days do we have a state community nurse here?
I'm not.
I mean, are they here all the time, or they just come twice a week, or?
No, so the
county.
Right now, in the county, with the county funded one, it's 4 days a week. They work 4 10-hour days.
But that's ours.
Yes.
I'm talking the state.
Oh.
If we go back to the
So
state.
the discussion was, we would put them on, or we would have them on a 8 hours a day, 5 day weeks, 8 hour a day schedule. So they would be in the county 4 days a week, and that one day, that extra day, could be used for going to Elko or going out of the area. So they would be here 4 days a week, just as they are now, but 8 hours a day instead
Or
of 10.
Austin, or wherever we send them on those 4 days.
How much coverage do we provide to the southern part of the county through the current way it's set up? How many days a month?
If they need it, I mean, Abby could answer that. If they're needed, she goes anywhere in the county that's
Okay.
needed.
And that wouldn't be different with the state. They would still be able to go down south and
By down south, I'm assuming you mean Austin.
Austin, Kingston,
Right.
Gilman String.
I do know that we would probably need a place to operate. So in some places, we go to the school and we would be able to see people at the school. So we would just need a location.
We have plenty, we have places that you can, what I'm concerned about is, do we go to individuals' houses, or is that the EMS that goes there and monitors diabetes and blood pressure and all
Yeah,
that?
that would be EMS. I don't know that.
That's the new
that-
paramedicine program, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so no, currently, and I don't think that would be follow the same with the
No.
state. They don't go to a private residence. That would be EMS, and that's the telemedicine, Jason?
It's the paramedicine program,
Paramedicine. Okay.
program, but it's not in full force yet here.
So back to my question that Patsy resurrected. Did the state have money all along to fund this?
We have money for the basic services, but I think what Lander County wanted was over and above that. As far as vaccinations for all sticks in my mind. And I think that's a great goal, by the way. I think that's wonderful. It helps everybody. We did do surveys, like if your pharmacy doesn't give immunizations to children because they're not comfortable for whatever reason, then they have to go to a medical provider, and I know you have a rural health center here, and maybe kids go there, but it seems like the convenience is what people wanted, immediate access if you're in an emergency, want to get an immunization for your child, to go back to school. We don't have supplies for those types of convenience. I don't mean to be rude or condescending about anything of people's convenience, but that's not part of what's in our budget. But we could work with you if you wanted to supply those things, it wouldn't be an issue. You would basically be determining who's eligible for that service in your county.
So I'd like to speak my thoughts on it. So, because I've thought about it for the last several days. Number one is the cost, that's the thing, but then more importantly is the service. And then I'd like to see all the letters of support from people I never thought of, like the sheriff's department, the school, the hospital, people that are directly affected by it. And I think in a lot of instances, you get what you pay for. I like the idea that we control it within our own county. It makes it much simpler. We control it rather than being in business with the state, which, oh no, we can't do this, or this is gonna affect this, or this, all in the name of saving dollars. And that's kinda how I see it, so I just wanted to put that out there.
And I have a question too. I wanted, what kind of guarantee are you going to have that we'll have a health nurse here? I mean, because I know that there's been breaks, and that's where the problems have arisen, is there's breaks in times that we have service, and we can go months without having a nurse here. And that's huge, makes huge, and for immunizations, for underprivileged, for the teenagers at the high school, I mean, that is a huge for me, that at any time we would have breaks where they would not be able to have access to a nurse.
I understand your concern. I can't speak to the past, I can only tell you for the last few years. We do have a state position. We also have other nurses, and I think it might even have been, as far as support, other counties have nurses in them that travel to cover things. And so it would be a scheduling issue while we had a vacancy and we had to recruit. So that definitely is a difference in, again, the county as well. I don't know how long people stay and if you can find someone quickly after the fact. It's definitely a consideration, but we do have nurses in Elko, we have one in Winnemucca. So we've picked the nurses that are closest to the location to cover those events. One of the things the state does, and you would have to decide if it was acceptable to the county, is we post hours when we're available if there's a variation in a schedule. It's not emergency care, So that means we don't guarantee someone's there every day of every week. And that is definitely something to consider. We post hours and we communicate with the community based on the reception that's there, meaning whoever's manning the front desk, so to speak, to schedule and queue up clients or people for assistance. So it's not emergency-based at all.
So I really agree with a lot of what Brian said, and now what you just explained sounded more like you're saying we're not gonna have somebody Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
What we talked about was hiring, and we do have a recruitment out under the state personnel system to have someone stationed here. And that person would be here for at least 4 days a week, and then coverage to Alco County for their local emergency preparedness. So we would have them covering several things. But
So it would be the 8 to 5. So, I guess one of my other concerns, and I really, I've been a really strong voice against creating, spending money on salaries. I mean, I'm not opposed to paying people a very good wage, because our employees earn it. But I also look to the future of, we're in a good shape now, but in 10 years, who knows how that's gonna be. We're going through this, your bonuses, your merits, things that don't apply to this, but basically, what I'm getting at is I think a cost factor is a really big deal. And for the money that we're paying now for a community health nurse, we have that person, in 5 years, that salary is gonna increase tremendously, and we can afford it now. Is one of the advantages I feel with the state program is if we're comparing apples to apples. If you are offering us the same service, thank you, Art, then I can definitely see an advantage. So that's my question is, you talk about immunizations. So you're not always gonna supply, grade school kids that need their immunizations and stuff? You don't have that?
If they have insurance, we would bill their insurance. If
I'm
they're
not
on
saying, I'm just asking, is that something that you would have stocked on hand? That somebody could go in and say, hey, my kid needs a measles shot? Do you have that?
We have stock for people who have Medicaid. We can provide the stock for people who are on Medicaid or uninsured or have health coverage that doesn't cover that. But for those children who had private insurance, we wouldn't necessarily have the stock for that. And in the past, my understanding for the last year or so, or two, the county paid for that through the community health, for the public health nurse, the county public health nurse. I wanna get the title right, because we get confused.
So, and I guess the thing about that is the argument saying that, we need the community health nurse because I need my kid immunized. But if they have insurance, why can't they go to the clinic and get it? This community health nurse program is for a lot of the people that don't have the insurance, is that?
That's correct. It's a safety net for people who don't have access to it otherwise. I think the rural areas do have difficulty with providers. You don't have a lot. So that makes it harder. I mean, the rules, I understand in everyone's circumstance, the rules get screwed because everything's focused on higher population, more providers of healthcare. There's not a lot here, but there is one. There's definitely a rural health center, and there's a pharmacy, so there's a couple access points. But some people don't have insurance, so they would come to the community health nurse office because they can show they meet the categories for the free federal medication.
And I'd like to just point out that if we do this, if we go the state way, we're actually going into business with Big Brother, and I think we sacrifice a bit of control, which I'm not in favor of. And you said it yourself, very complex. I don't like complexities.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't.
I understand.
I mean, our world's complex enough that I don't want it within our own little community. And if we can make it very simple.
And I think that, yes, there are a lot of people from the mining that do have insurance, but there or a lot more who don't, that are underprivileged. And so I think that that's, you know, to be looked at as well. Yes, they can go, you know, to the clinic and get their shots, and probably that's where they do go, but there is a huge amount of people who don't, and that this program serves.
I think we're talking apples and oranges though, because if we compare the salary that we're gonna pay for our own county employee, or the salary that we're actually gonna be contracted with here, that's fine. But we still pay for the immunization. If we decide we wanna pay the vaccine, we pay it here or we pay it to our county nurse. I mean, either way. I mean, so I don't want us hung up on, oh dear, we aren't gonna give them, if we wanna pay for coverage, that's over and above what we're really deciding today.
But we do it anyway. I mean, that's just it,
That's right.
is we do it anyway.
Yep.
Whether we're paying,
We're gonna pay no matter who.
well, yeah,
Okay,
And-
so that's really out of the discussion. The discussion is how much they're gonna do for us, and if it's enough, or if we need to go our own.
And there's not a guarantee that we will always, that there can be breaks in coverage where we don't have a nurse.
Well,
Correct.
If I may state on that, actually.
excuse, Sadie?
Right, that's what I was, Sadie Sullivan, as a citizen, when Brenda Keller was employed as the state, whatever the title is, our demand here was less because of our population. So Elko was running short, and so was Winnemucca at the time. So what had happened was she was stationed here, but she was being pulled to Elko because they had a higher demand because of the population, because she was employed through the state. So then our coverage, we didn't have any coverage because she got pulled to those locations because they, you know, whether the nurse stepped down or whatever have you. So we were left without, just to kind of give you guys a heads up on that. So we didn't have coverage here because the population is larger in the other two communities, so they pulled her to those directions.
Yeah, we're relinquishing control.
And that's one of my
Thank you.
concerns when I ask, you know, are you going to guarantee that we will have somebody here at least 4 days a week?
Well, don't wanna mislead you. I think as far as I know, we would have the person here and they would be stationed here. I can't predict the vacancies if someone quit another place.
Well, I understand, yeah.
But we would commit to it as, I mean, that would be our goal.
But if there's somebody available, if you hire somebody short of, you know, illness, quitting,
Right.
everything else, is that person would work in Battle Mountain at least 4 days a week.
If you're asking us to do that, that's what we would aim to do. That definitely would be what we would plan.
Well, I
And we
guess,
do have a contract, and we could state it in the contract.
absolutely.
I don't wanna mislead that the person might not go somewhere if there was a public health emergency.
Right, and that's what had happened in the past. Sadie Sullivan.
Well,
Right,
and then
exactly,
that's
that's the point, emergency, right.
Right.
a clarification of what the emergency is. I mean, certainly, yeah, there are some, but, I mean, I'm sorry if Elko just runs out of health nurses and they need somebody, and they think they're having an emergency, whereas they're not.
One of the things I would apologize for history is if people didn't come and say to you, this is what's happening around the state, because they are very interested in how other decisions in other parts of the state affect this county. So I take responsibility for whatever wasn't stated to you in the past about staffing issues. I think we could come up with a regular report for you, or what kind of activities. And the person should be here to invest time in your commission meetings as well as your local preparedness events, and work in partnership to get that done. In any part of Lander County, because it is Lander County, and we're supposed to be helping everybody, including Austin and the little towns in between, correct? So, I would say there's pros and cons to each side. I'm not here to advocate that you do anything other than what you feel most comfortable with. I do know we need to communicate if we're gonna be part of your partnership, and if you have special projects and health concerns for the county, we would need to know and tell you. And I don't disagree that the state's a pain in the ass when it comes to figuring out how to pay for things and how to make it correct by whoever's terms. I think today you spend a lot of time making sure you do things technically correct, and that does take more time. But we are able to provide emergency responses, and we are able to do those exercises that pass out flu vaccinations or other types of supplies as the county's seeing a need or concern. mean, the Board of Health can concentrate on teen pregnancy, or mosquito abatement is a hot one I know sometimes people worry about in the summer, or having colorectal screenings. I saw an ad today that most people in the rural areas don't have colorectal screening, so they have a higher rate of colon cancer. Makes sense because you don't have a lot of providers here. So those are the kind of things that public health is worried about and wants to work with the counties on. But you lead the discussion about what you find is the most important. So 2 things I think today. We need to do the minimum for the county based on the law. That's the $11,000 contract that we presented, assuming we don't have a nurse on site, but we would be available for local emergency preparedness and to do the distribution, like the flu pods and those kinds of
Okay,
things.
that's next on our agenda, so we'll just hold
Right.
up on that one for a little bit.
But I just wanted to
Yeah.
say, I want to make sure it's not confused. What we would do additionally if we
Right.
had a nurse on site is have to pay a little bit more money, ask the county to pay more money, and the scope of work over and above what our minimum is, we would have to make sure we are clear with you on what that is. I wanted to say, as far as the funding for the nurse, if we did have a nurse on site, we plan to have her in about, it's probably a her, might be a he, but generally it's a her. Hearing the 4 days a week at a minimum, I was told Friday, and I know kids are out of school on Friday, that's a hot day to have the nurse available for shots and those kinds of things. And then we would participate in ELCO, that same person would. Our funding comes from the CDC, it comes 28% from county, 44% from general fund, 10% from another federal grant for maternal and child health. And so it's not just the county money, so we're not asking for you to pay 100%, but we would say if you want to have special tasks or events or promotions for the county would probably have to pay for some portion of those supplies and medications over and above, because it would be for people with insurance, that's who you would be covering, and that don't fall within our mandate.
Thank you. I think that's fairly clear. Does anybody have any questions that haven't been asked?
Yeah, I have a question. If we stayed under the current plan and we had an emergency, we could still petition the state to come in to help, right?
Oh, absolutely. We don't shed our responsibility. We would still retain that responsibility.
Okay, and we'd have to pay for that service.
My understanding in our contract is yes, if it was over and above a certain threshold,
Okay.
then the county has agreed to that responsibility in our previous contracts.
So if we didn't have a contract and you came in, would the price be the same?
By law, you have to have that.
We
probably should wait
have a
for the
contract.
next.
We do, and that's number 9. Yeah.
It's just minimum responsibilities of the
Right.
state. We have to have that legally.
Now, Keith, you said that with the state, we would have somebody 5 days a week?
No, it would be 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So it would be 5 day, that would be the schedule.
4 days.
No, 5 days a week, 8 to 5 is the schedule that we want to go after. Leaving 4 days committed to Battle Mountain, and the 5th day, they could, if they needed to, and there's no,
So there'd be 4 days a week at Battle Mountain.
right, but yeah.
Some of it could be done over telephone, but realistically, if somebody calls you up, it's not the same as being in a meeting and meeting people and knowing what their concerns are.
Well, it could be 5 days a week unless she's needed elsewhere.
Correct.
So some months, it could be 3 weeks, all Monday through Friday and maybe 1 day, so.
Okay, board, are you ready for a motion?
I do have another question. So you mentioned certain screenings, colorectal. One of the letters here talks about pelvic exams. Are those done in the office?
Yes, they are. You have.
So you actually do some actual exams, it's not just, okay, I didn't know, I'm sorry.
Right, no, that's true. For reproductive health, there is a requirement for some treatments to have an examination prior. And we do have orders from a physician. We have an OBGYN who's contracted with us and gives orders.
Okay.
And we have a nurse who, advanced practice nurse. We have 3 of them who travel to the clinics to do those examinations. We do have to schedule those out because they're traveling generally from somewhere else.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You guys are gonna vote on this, I assume, is that what she was calling for, Patsy? And then Veronica for the record.
Okay.
I'm in support of keeping our county, to be real honest with you, with the sheriff's department. In the past, where we have people who need to be seen, we've had to take them there, or take them to the clinic, whatever the case. When they became county, she's come to me. So, and she's always been there. Anytime I've called her, she's always come over there for whatever reason we've needed. She's always been there. Now, if she's not there, or if this goes into effect, then what that does for the sheriff's office is we're gonna have to take our people to the emergency room, okay, and get them taken care of there. So the cost of the county on my budget is astronomical compared to what it was before. See where I'm going with this?
Yeah, but she's
So I am
leaving.
in full support. I did write a letter of it. It's not, it's a short and brief letter. But for the sheriff's office and possibly the schools, I can't speak for them, but I did put the schools in there. This is important to us as far as cost.
So
Well,
let me
schools
ask
have
you
their
this.
nurse, and Abby's leaving, so.
There it is, but I did want you five to understand, she's been a lifesaver for us at the sheriff's office, I'll tell you that straight up. I don't know what other way to put it, and I'm like Brian, I like simple, stupid. And when we call her, she's there, she comes in, she immunizes them, she could do whatever we've asked her to do that we've needed. And if we need to, if she'll tell us, okay, this one needs to go to the ER, we need to set up a doctor or something of that sort. It's been a good for us.
So I guess my question to the state then is there anything saying that our community health nurse through the state program couldn't do the same thing? Or would she be restricted to office? I mean, if she's gonna travel to Elko, Winnemucca, whatever, one day a week, then why can't she go visit the sheriff's office?
That's a great question. I think under the NRS, the sheriff, and I wrote that down because it's, and maybe you already know this, so I'm not, the sheriff is responsible for the medical care in the jail. And as a commission, you're responsible, and it's NRS 211.020, where the county commission needs to take care of precautions for escape, illness, and infection in the jail. And then the sheriff himself is responsible to treat injury, infectious disease, and treatment for that person that, if they were sick before they came in, the sheriff's not responsible, but if they're sick in jail, the sheriff's responsible. So it sounds like what he's telling you is that the nurse has come in and
Well,
treated.
our community nurse, and what I'm asking is if we went with the
Right.
state, would state's health nurse
Sorry for
do
the
that?
lengthy preface, but then we would have to be under contract to do those things. So right now, your health nurse is doing it because she works for the county. We could do it, but we would need to have an agreement, a formal agreement with the sheriff.
Judy, I think what Ron is asking and what she's stating is that, and Sadie gave a perfect example, is yes, that state person would do it if they're available, but if they were off taking care of Elker or Winnemucca on this
Well, that's
emergency,
supposed to be
then
one
he
day.
would have to take his people and send them to the emergency
Well,
hospital.
and I understand that, Brian, but I mean, we're talking one day a week.
Yeah,
Is-
we're
is-
still gonna-
Potentially.
Potentially, exactly, and that's, obviously, yes, we would have a contract, and the contract with the sheriff's office, which ultimately comes back to the commissioners.
See, and I want under again for the record, I believe in the past, until the county did take on Abby, we did not have that contract. So we couldn't get them into our facilities, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
But we didn't know we could do it either,
Didn't
so,
know, we were
so
told
I
no.
said, we won't let that happen
And
again.
rightfully so, if we didn't have a contract and we contact them, no, we can't come in there.
We had a
Great to
minimal
me.
contract. We didn't have these
Well,
extras on the contract.
The thing about having a nurse available, no matter what we do, they're not gonna be available all the time. They'll be sick, they'll take a vacation day or whatever,
Oh,
so.
we know where she lives.
Okay, well, for the record, I do want to put in that we do have two letters. One is from the Lander County Sheriff's Office, as Sheriff Unger referred to, and also from Hope Bauer, BSN RN, from the Battle Mountain General Hospital, both in favor of the community.
And
there's more.
There's another one for the high school.
There's more?
Yes.
See, that's what happens when you hand it to us at the last minute. That's not,
I just got those,
Yeah, you
Commissioner,
just.
well, we don't get,
yesterday.
again, it should all be part of our packet, right?
Just got 'em
Sandra
yesterday.
Torgerson
I
from,
have control over the program.
and Paula Green, she's the
And there
the
is a
nurse
letter
and the
from-
principal, and also from Abby Burkhart, our leading community nurse. Okay, thank you. Wanted those on the record. Any more?
One more thing, Patsy, and I need to stick up for Keith. I apologize. I didn't get my letter. I didn't write it to the 11th. I got it to him this morning, so I apologize. That's my fault, not Keith's.
Well, the thing with that is that when we're handed at the last minute, we don't get a chance to read things, and it's important that we really do.
No,
So-
and I understand that, and I was gonna absolutely read my letter to everybody
That's
this
okay.
morning.
We acknowledge it, thank you, Ron. And fortunately, you're here in person to tell us, so thank you for the other corrections. I'm ready for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the Lander County Community Health Nursing Program, that we continue it as a county-funded program.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Brian, we continue with our program, and seconded by Kathy. Any other discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. Nay?
Nay.
Which one you
Nay.
want?
Okay, well,
Then I'll make a motion to have the community health nurse be under the state-funded program.
I'll second that.
okay, it's been moved by Art that we go back with the state for our community health nursing, and seconded by Judy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and that does pass. We will be going back to the state. Now, if we have a problem with this, with our contract, I imagine, if we find out it's not working, we certainly can bring it back up and change
Absolutely.
at any time.
It'll have the 30-day out, just as all
30
of
day
our
out.
contracts.
Okay.
30
We have the 30-day in and out on item 9.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we're going to go directly to, again, out of order. I'm so sorry, but we're trying to keep things together. Number 9. Discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove a contract between Lander County and the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public and Behavioral Health effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and all of the matters properly related thereto. And with that, I need to amend this. It's discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove an amended contract. We already have a contract, so it's amended. And the dates are July 1st, 2019, and the amendment will take it to 2021. And legally, we can amend this because of the insignificance of what we're doing apparently.
That's
That
correct.
was a legal
Since we
advice
already
for
have an
us.
existing
So,
contract.
number 9 it is, thank you.
I would like to explore, if we're just at the minimum with the state, maybe we need to go up a level
Well,
or
I
something.
think you guys have.
Okay.
No, we're under another.
I think you've discussed that, and
Oh,
I
we
think
were-
Keith
okay.
got the idea pretty
Okay.
quick.
So I'd like to address that real quick, Commissioner. So we are at the minimum right now, and we are gonna have to actually, because this contract, I don't think includes the health nurse itself, right?
Right.
The position.
That's correct, this is
So-
Tina.
This is the mandatory one for all of them, the emergency services for an outbreak, infectious disease, et cetera, right? This is our $11,000 a year that we need to keep in place by itself.
So we'll have another amended contract coming before you, once we sit down and we come up with
Okay.
the requirements that we want, or
Do you all understand that?
Yep.
Okay.
So basically, we just need to make a motion then to approve the amended contract between Lander County and the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public and Behavioral Health, effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
21.
21,
Thank you.
okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear a second, was there? Not yet?
And that's just the contract, we're not putting in there the state.
No, this is the
This is
mandatory.
what we
minimum.
always do.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
This
Okay.
is the standard contract I always
Okay,
have.
so moved by Judy and seconded by Kathy. Thank you. Any other discussion? Public
I got a
comment?
question on that. And this is for clarification for me again, I'm sorry, Rona, for the record. So we're gonna go back to the state, so now we're gonna write another contract or amendments to the one we have. Can we get in there where the sheriff's office can have some,
That's all things that will be considered, absolutely.
okay,
So this is just the mandatory one that we're on now, but yes, to answer you, we will be.
And I'll get with you on that, Ron, and I think you had some type of an agreement with the county health nurse, right?
I believe so, yes.
So we can get that and we
Okay.
can incorporate.
Any more discussion, I need to open that one back up again, guys, so I'm sorry.
I'm just going on with the new one. If-
No, no,
if
no,
we're
this-
gonna
no.
do the state, I would like to have
I know,
something in there.
but I'll have to open that agenda back up again if you wanna discuss it further.
Ron, that one's not in
What is
front,
this
no,
one
this
we're
is,
dealing with?
this
No,
is the,
no.
this
No,
is
no,
the
no.
mandatory minimum contract that we have to
I
enter into.
apologize, I thought we was going on.
Nope, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any other public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and that unanimously passes. Thank you. I know that's a bit confusing, so hopefully we've got that all okay. And now we move back to number 3.
Nancy, this is Dee Helming.
Go ahead, Dee.
Can we do number 6 so I can go open? I've been sitting here all morning.
Yes, I haven't read it in, so we'll come back, because that affects Austin too. I'm happy to do that for you. I'm going to recess the Board of Lander County Commissioners and convene the meeting of the Lander County Liquor Board, composed of the Lander County Board of Commissioners and the Lander County Sheriff. Number 6, and this is number 1 under that item, discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove a liquor license to Don Kipp and Deanne Helming for Silver State Enterprises, DBA Silver State Bar and Grill, located at 73 Main Street in Austin, Nevada, and all other matters properly related thereto. Okay, it's in front of you, I've got your full application, and they want it on and off for liquor, on and off site.
Everything good, Ron?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve a liquor license to Don Kipp and Deanne Helming for Silver Enterprises, DBA Silver State Bar and Grill.
Second.
Okay, Judy made the motion, or seconded that, any discussion, public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there you go, Dee.
Was that fast enough for you, Dee?
Get to work, Dee.
I will adjourn the meeting of the Lander County Liquor Board and can reconvene the meeting of the Lander County Board of Commissioners, and now we'll go back to number 3. Thank you. Discussion and possible action to set a date for the Lander County Commission meeting to be held in Austin, and all other matters properly related thereto. And I think we were looking at something a little bit later in the year. Hopefully, Summit will be almost completed, and we can have that meeting down there with all of the southern folks.
You don't wanna go next meeting?
No. Could still be snow, absolutely. No.
So,
So Austin, do you have any input?
It's just Michelle and Frank, and no, we don't. It's at your pleasure, commissioners.
Okay. Well, do you want to look at May, June? Which
Doesn't
pleasure?
matter to me.
well, I
Just as
guess it all depends on, anything sooner, the courthouse is probably cold. Anything later, it's probably hot.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Well, when is this construction gonna start?
It's not. Construction on what, the road?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not this year, they postponed it.
Oh, okay.
We're okay.
I wasn't worried about snow as much as I was the construction.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well,
And what time do we do these meetings typically? What time do we do them typically?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock?
10 o'clock, yeah. Gives everybody time to get down.
How about like May 9th?
How about June 27th?
Oh, June 27th.
I'd just like to point out, in May, we do have some budget
Oh,
things
yeah.
that we'll
Yeah.
need to get to the
Yeah,
state.
we're
go after that.
still busy.
So June, yeah.
Let's go June 27th. Does anybody have any problems with that day?
When?
June 27th, end of June?
Yeah, I got a problem with that day. Can we go the 13th?
Sure.
That would be better.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we schedule the commissioners' meeting for the June 13th, 2019 be held in Austin at 10 o'clock.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Judy that we have the meeting June 13th at 10 a.m. in Austin, and seconded by Art. Any other discussion? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed, and that passes. And let's move on to number 7, discussion and possible action with regard to establish grant procedures as outlined in Lander County Grant Request Instruction Manual fiscal year 2019-2020, and whether these procedures should be expanded or modified, and all other matters properly related thereto.
Let me catch up with here real quick, Commissioner. So last year, we put some, the commission put some things in place, and what I'd like to do is kind of go over those a little bit, make sure that we're gonna follow those, this year. One of them was that we weren't gonna exceed $100,000 for all of our grants. And right now, including the biggest grant, which is in the South Austin Water Sewer District number 2, we're at about 4.3 million. But that, a lot of that is included in the like I say, in the request from Water Sewer District 2. Things that were put in place last year were quarterly financial reports from each of the grantees that received grants, which we haven't, we received a couple, but not from everybody. That the grant amounts will not include salaries. We can't pay salaries through a grant. That one thing that Cindy and I have talked about, would like to implement this year, is that July 1st, we don't just give the people that received a grant, approved grant from you guys, get a check.
Right.
We would like them to provide us an invoice, bring it to you for approval, and then we'll write the check out of that line item for whatever entity you approve the grant for. Personal wages we talked about, and we'd like to see a decline in the grants in the future. And we've said that, I think, every year for the last couple of years, and they kind of, they do fluctuate a little bit, and actually some are more this year, some are less. If we don't receive an application, we'd like to be able to deny it by the deadline for our budget workshop to present to this commission. Let me see. Nonprofit is a kind of a touchy subject. A lot of the nonprofits come and we support them, or I should say the county supports them, and they shouldn't be supporting them. And it has to do with wages, that we pay the wages. So those are the things we'd like to look at implementing with your approval. It's important. We need to reduce the grant requests. They're high. One of the things. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. Another thing that Cindy and I discussed. I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I completely forgot. If you guys want to ask some questions, I'll remember.
Okay, you were talking about verification of money spent.
Yes.
Now, the second year of the last term, Chairman Baker was emphatic about bringing back receipts, and just never got the receipts from everyone.
Very minimal, if any.
And only because Cindy Benson for the record, and that's only because we sent out a form for them to fill out. and submit back to us with the backup material showing their expenses.
Cindy, I don't wanna give you more work than you already have, but I guess one of my questions is, yes, you said very minimal receipts, and that was something we've asked for. I think you guys' ideas are great. I think that those that received grants last year that did not follow what we requested, their quarterly reports, receipts on such, is, you know what? If they can't get the grant applications in on time, if they can't be filled out properly, and if they can't follow the rules, then I'm sorry, I don't think they need the money. They can figure it out somewhere else. So that means going back and looking at those from last year, and if they did, you know, if they've given you any receipts, given you quarterly reports, sorry. If they haven't, then I don't know if they should even be considered.
So we have not received anything from previous years other than this, and these were just turned in within the last week.
Yes, and there are a couple that in their grant applications, they have listed what they spent the money for last year. But it was not until they applied for the new grant that they supplied that.
Well, I think what I wanna see is if we give a grant for $20,000, I wanna make sure that the $20,000 is spent and there's not $5,000 hanging there, and then they come back and ask for another 20, and now they have 25. So we need an accounting process.
Commissioners, just so you understand, we have a procedure, and Commissioner, you're absolutely right, and we have established a procedure that you voted for that says that. What we're doing here today, it's my understanding, is to continue that procedure and modify anything else you may want to add to the existing procedure. But Judy, you're absolutely correct. We already have, and I gave a legal opinion to Keith that the policy that you established would prevent somebody from applying again if they haven't gone along with our established procedure.
I'm a little confused on I think what we did last year, because I do remember us deciding whether we were going to go maximum 50,000, maximum 100. I did not think that included our subdivisions like the water and sewer in Kingston, when we have a political subdivision, GID or something.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that was separate. I thought 100,000 was for the others, because, I mean, they did up more than 100,000 before we even turned around. And there are some that don't know they're even gonna have an event, and then they'll come before us and say, hi, we wanna do a rodeo, or, you know, wanna do the Christmas parade, could we have an extra $100 or something? And they don't know ahead of time to put it in.
Yeah.
Okay, but
So we have to have some kind of an exception that we could at least look at it, and perhaps not, if we haven't spent our whole 100,000.
And I do think, you know, the Austin, water sewer, things like that should be an exception, because even though it's technically a grant, this is infrastructure.
Yes.
So I don't believe it really should.
And that's next on the agenda, not to cut you off, but it is
Yeah.
next to talk about that grant specifically.
Right, but we're talking
So-
grants, and
Right.
what's gonna be under, like, I remember, well, of course, we have the Chamber of Commerce, we have hospice that came before us, and they just asked for, I think, startup money or something like that. So I don't think they knew originally, although I think they've got a request in, I don't think they knew originally they were gonna start up. So we couldn't have got to them because they weren't there at the beginning of budget time. So I'm saying, I think we need a little bit of flexibility, if we haven't spent the whole 100,000, that we at least have the right to give a little bit if we want to do that throughout the year to somebody who meets our qualifications.
And hence the reason we're here today, to modify our
Okay,
existing.
well, that's why I'm giving my opinion.
And we did have a line item for other grants.
Right.
I think that was
5,000 was in that miscellaneous request.
Oh, so it's 105 or it's 95.5?
Well, I think it's
What did we do
100,
with
and then the extra is, it's the extra.
It was 105.
Yes.
Okay,
So, but the 5,000.
I'm happy with that.
So I did regain my thought real quick, and Cindy and I did go through each of the grant requests last week. And we actually got it down to about 99,000, 98.5, something around there. But we cut a lot of stuff out. We started with wages, and then we went from there, and some of the ones that got bigger amounts last year, we cut down, and one of them specifically that we cut down was the kids club. They were at 40. We gave them 25 last year, they wanted 40 this year, and we cut it actually down to $7,500. And these are things that I'm gonna bring out to you at the budget workshop next week to let you know what our recommendations are to the commission financially.
I think a lot of these nonprofits, there's federal grants for that stuff too, right? I mean, it's, that these people could be applying for, rather than just us.
Right, there are.
We've just made it too easy for them to come
No,
here.
exactly, that's
Exactly.
my point, it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I
Okay.
think, I guess if you want an action, I'll make a motion to, establish our grant procedures as outlined, in the Lander County Grant Request Instruction Manual, fiscal year 2019-2020.
Well, we've
And,
I'm sorry, Judy.
and incorporate, the suggestions Keith and Cindy have made. Is that,
Are you guys, did everybody get what?
Yeah, are we clear on the suggestions? That's-
Yeah, are you guys clear on it? Are you, okay.
Read what you got there, Keith.
So the first one is that we receive in finance quarterly financial reports that that we receive. Well, nobody's here, Ted, don't worry about that.
You're on video, you're on video.
That we receive quarterly financial reports from each grantee, that we know what they're spending. And if it's not received, that it could affect the future of a next year grant or a future grant. So quarterly financial reports submitted. Submitted invoices, that they submit invoices with documentation of what the money was spent on, and then we can bring it to you, or we can make, Cindy and I can look at it and say, okay, it meets the grant criteria and pay it. Or we can bring it to you, and you guys can say, okay, this is an invoice, just with our regular bills. Well, we'll probably have a separate item and say, okay.
Well, I would say bring it to us if there's an
That's
issue.
what I think.
Okay?
If there's an
Otherwise,
If there's an issue, or just all of it?
if there's an issue?
if there's an issue,
Okay,
if
all
you
right.
have somebody that's cheating or somebody that's not doing things right, yeah, we should know about it.
I just wanna be clear on it, that grants cannot be used for personnel wages.
Okay.
That, if a grant's requested from year to year, that the grant needs to be
Decline.
declined, yearly, and we could put a 20%, a 25%, a 5%, whatever you guys would like to put on there each year.
I think I would like the word may. We
May?
might have some that we think is important and we
Wiggle
wanna
room.
give the same amount to every year.
Okay,
So don't make it automatic.
may reduce annually.
Yeah, maybe reduced. Is that okay?
There are
Right,
some
but
things
then-
going on in this town that really need to keep being funded. The stuff for kids, the kids club, the archery, I mean, those type of things, we need to help them generate.
I mean, if you put the word may in, why even have that? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
It alerts them if they read it.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be an exception. Like Patsy said, if they come for the parade of lights in December or in November instead of getting a grant for it, I mean, those things are gonna happen.
That's the extra 5,000. Go ahead.
if the grant applications, excuse me, if the grant request applications are not received by the application date, which Cindy gives plenty of notice on those, that we would not accept them.
How does everybody know what the application date is?
We put
When
it
they
out,
get the application, it says on there, when it's due by.
And so everybody who has a grant now has been sent an application?
All except for the school board. They did not get sent one. We just send them to the people that, that
Okay, so
have
they're all
gotten them
alerted.
before.
Yeah, that's good, okay.
Yeah. And so he did not know, Russ from the school district did not know that we had the certain date that they had to be in, so we did accept his.
The school board asked for a grant?
That was that one related to the, early childhood,
Early childhood.
30,000.
We can't supply wages, so.
And that would be a wage cut, our wage, and Cindy and I did cut that out of our, that's on our recommendations to you. So that's what we're looking at.
There was one other criteria.
Did I miss it?
I think we were talking about that we, the institute that applies for the money needs to be in sound financial.
Oh, that's right, yes.
I'm sorry, it needs to be what?
Should be in sound financial standing, not like owe back money on taxes or something, or have
Right.
liens against anything.
Thank you, Cindy, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We have a motion on the floor to approve that modification. Judy made the motion, Brian seconded. Any other discussion? Public comment?
For the record, could we also make sure that these grants aren't incorporated into our budgets? Cause I know like for example, the weed grant, the 20,000 you guys give to the conservation district, you just add it to the road and bridge weed control, and it causes some discrepancies between who's spending what, so they'd have
That's
their
kind of
own
the
line item.
exception, yeah, I think that should be separate.
Yeah, that way they're responsible for theirs and there's no going,
Mixing of funds.
yes,
Right.
if we could add that to that.
Well, I don't know if we really need to add that to the criteria, I think that's just gonna have to be a
Well,
line
we
item
did-
for Cindy to move.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
we can do that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. We move on to number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding all grants previously given to and currently applied for by the Lander County Water and Sewer District Number 2, and to further consider all other options which may be available and all other matters properly related thereto. And this was quite extensive in here of what they're looking at for the sewer. They did give us some pictures. Unfortunately, they don't show a whole lot, but I do have pictures if you would like to look at them. And it does show how the sewer pipe has been disintegrating terribly. And they also were talking about a new truck. Well, I think we're on top of the truck. We actually have a county truck that's in pretty doggone good shape that we are going to see how quickly we can get that to Austin. But the concern about this isn't necessarily to make this decision to fund this right now. It was something that we're gonna look on whether we wanna put it on our budget. But the extensive work that needs to be done, because it is so old, looks like it's millions and millions of dollars and it's not gonna quit. So, one of the concerns on discussion is it something you just wanna keep putting out, or is there another agenda item that we may be considering as an alternative or option?
Why would something of this, like, nature, extensiveness of it, just be put aside as like a capital improvement project? And then my other question, why isn't it, like, their water and sewer not part of ours, or why could it not be part of our, the county-wide water and sewer type thing,
It can be, that's something that's a consideration, absolutely. And that's what we will put on another agenda, if that's your concern, because it doesn't look like it's gonna stop. I mean, this sewer system is actually disintegrating in some of these areas, and I will put on the record that if we do have a sewer break, and there is sewage, the penalty is $15,000 a day from the state for us to fix that. We in Austin don't have even a hardware store to run to and fix. And so it takes time. And so we've got an outgo of quite a lot of additional expense for penalties, which seems really hard. It's like, oh, you're down and out, let me kick you. So I'm sorry.
And I will say that, Bert's still here, I will say Bert supports water sewer too a lot. So if it was to come to the county, or if we go down that road, I think that would be my recommendation, that we look at that, because we support them pretty regularly in the south anyway.
Well, a few years ago, of course, we got that nice big net proceeds, and we paid, $6 million we paid off their water system to start. And then we knew that they were doing Highway 50 with NDOT, so we put that in. We thought that was gonna be this year, and that's quite a bit, and engineering and all. And now, it looks like we've got one that we don't even know the final total. So if the county's gonna be that involved, do you want me to put that on the agenda? That,
To take it over?
to take it over and what we need to do?
Well, what we need to do is have them ask us to take it over because we can't make it.
But you know, there's an
I'm not so
interesting,
sure about that.
I'm 100% positive.
Can we
about
just
that.
send them a letter and say, will you please ask us to take you over?
Basically, that's it. They have to request it. We can't demand it. They're a separate legal entity.
Okay, so let's put that on the agenda so we can discuss that.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So we don't need any action under number 8 for right now.
there was an
Do we have any
interesting,
public comment from Austin?
No.
there was an interesting comment made to me on Water District number 2, and it was, net proceeds of mines money is for Lander County. And that's the view of a lot of people that are concerned about this Water District number 2, that they're entitled to this money because net proceeds is for all of Lander County.
I
So
agree.
I just wanted to throw that out there because it's rather unique.
You're absolutely right, there are,
You
They
know,
may
how do
be a
you
separate-
argue that? I mean,
Yeah.
it's for Lander County.
and they are
So-
Lander County residents, and they may be a separate entity and such, but
Yeah.
still,
When you
It's a
become a
municipality.
subdivision though, as a GID, Government Improvement District, you also plan to do your own finances and you don't look to someone else. So, there's lots of things we need to discuss and we will do that at our next meeting. Okay. Moving right along, that brings us to number 10, correspondence, reports, potential upcoming agenda items. We have some we have identified. Do we have any more?
Yeah, I would, I'd like to schedule a town hall meeting for April the 2nd on Second Amendment. Ron will catch you up.
Hi, Ron.
Hi, Ron Unger again for the record. On the, for the upcoming agendas, I would just like to give everybody a heads up that the next meeting, I'm gonna come and ask for a resolution from Lander County for you guys to make Lander County a constitutional Second Amendment county. So, just a heads up, give you a little thought, I'll bring what information I can. I do have a lot of information at this point from other counties within the state of Nevada and outside the state of Nevada. So, I'll get that, so.
Or if we have that town hall meeting, we'll do it in the evening, apparently,
Yeah,
right?
6
Okay,
o'clock.
perfect, yeah.
This is kind of above and beyond arts, I did wanna make sure that
Yeah.
you
You know,
understood that.
and just so everybody remembers, Ron and I and Cindy started on this in Lander County 2.5 years ago with the NRA video that people came here to do the video. So we kind of led this because we knew what was gonna happen. So we'll
Okay,
do
so,
that at the
so
Civic
is the
Center?
town, I'm sorry.
We'll do that at the Civic Center.
Wherever you'd like, Commissioner, is that where you'd like it?
If the Civic Center's busy, then we'll do it in the community room.
Am I done?
You're never done.
Oh, I know that.
So is it the commission that is calling the hearing, is that
How would you like
what
it?
you want to do?
Calling a hearing.
Yeah.
the
Town
I
town
mean,
hall
is it
meeting.
sponsored by us for the town hall meeting, or is,
Well, I just wanna let the people in Lander County know that we're,
Who's supporting it? Who's bringing it? Is it the county commission?
okay, me,
Huh?
yeah, the commissioners.
Okay,
so
so,
do we have to have that as an agenda
Yes.
item then?
Okay.
yes.
If we
We'll
have
have
it
to
on
have
the
it
agenda
recorded.
item, that's on the 28th. For us to have a meeting, it's
Right,
kind,
so
it's
we're
kind
gonna
of
have to
quick,
do it before the 28th.
but we don't have another meeting before the 28th. And it's not on our agenda today.
How many days do we need?
Well, I'm just saying, you could have it if we approve you to have it, but it doesn't give a lot of time to get the information out. Unless you,
I know that the 28th, if we discuss it on the 28th, we still have enough time to post.
It's, yeah, I think we could still post, but what I would suggest is that it's, and I'll help you with that however you need, but that the sheriff calls it, a town hall meeting put on by the sheriff, then we don't have to record it. I mean, it's just,
Okay, okay,
we don't have
yeah.
to do the open meeting
You
law.
wanna do it that
We're
way,
not
Ron?
sponsoring it.
Whatever you
Okay.
need, if you want us to advertise, yeah, you
Okay.
can advertise, we can help set it up, whatever you need, Ron, I'm just saying, that way we don't have to go through
Okay.
open meeting and have recorders and the whole deal.
And I'll help you with that, Ron.
Maybe the Bugle can help get the word out.
So what time are you looking at?
6 o'clock.
Evening meeting?
Yeah, 6 o'clock. And if the,
I'll know and I
yeah,
can go
if the
check real
civic
quick,
center's busy, then we'll just do it in the
and
community
then I can
room.
get with you for all that.
Okay, so we don't need it on the agenda,
No.
that, okay. Any other items?
I think it's been mentioned before, but Keith, I would like to put Lou Lonnie on the agenda for the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority.
Okay, so do we need to advertise for that?
What's that one?
Lou Lanny, on the Central Nevada Regional Water Board Authority? Or can the commission just appoint? He's an alternate, right?
He would be a second
Oh,
alternate,
second alternate,
because we already have an alternate.
okay. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I have to know.
I mean, we actually will be losing Frank. I don't know how many more meetings he plans on attending.
He's here till the end of June.
So, yeah.
Right, so we will
July.
have another meeting, after that is, so I think then Lou could take his place in that, in becoming the primary alternate. Cause we can have as many alternates as we want.
So he's not an alternate now?
Nope.
So, yeah, we'd have to
I
appoint.
think Louis on the pool lock.
Well, he's on a lot of things.
Yeah, and he's on the Humboldt River Basin, but he wanted to be on the Central Nevada.
Just let me know if I have to advertise.
Anything else?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, public comment. For non-agendized items only, persons are invited to submit comments in writing and or attend or make comments on any non-agenda item at the board meeting, if any, and discussion of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. Any public comment?
I actually have something. If totally trivial, I thought I'd share this. I had a bald eagle sitting on the pivot yesterday. And you don't see that often in Battle Mountain.
Okay, and just for information, because that's wonderful, NACO registration has opened up for the Clark County National NACO meeting in July. And I recommend you go on the website and get your reservations in early, because it does fill up.
What date?
That's it.
What's the date
The
of
date,
the convention?
the date is July, hang on. It starts 26th. 12th? No, I'm sorry, 12th. July 12th through the 15th. Okay, motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. Judy, Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Austin.